Transforming Trauma, Unit 3. A workshop presentation developed by Dr. Julian Watchorn on behalf of the Foster and Kinship Carers Association of Tasmania. This workshop received support from the Sydney Myer Fund. In Unit 3 of this series, we'll explore the second domain of trauma and emotions. Children's emotions act as a barometer for how they are interacting with the external world and managing and experiencing their internal state. This module will examine the emotional impacts of trauma. Abuse and neglect impacts language. Abused and neglected children lose the ability to process experience through language. Abuse and neglect impacts empathy. Children often have a diminished empathy as their own emotions, including feelings of worthlessness and shame, are so overwhelming. Abuse and neglect impacts on experiencing joy. Abused and neglected children often have a diminished capacity for joy and happiness. Abuse and neglect impacts on sensitivity. Abused and neglected children are often hypersensitive to trauma or sadness in others. They'll often gravitate to other children who have also experienced traumatic situations. Abuse and neglect impacts on our emotional responses. Children who've experienced trauma struggle with regulating emotional responses. Their emotional responses are retained as fragments of information, always tagged with the intensity of the first experience. Memories of these experiences are retrieved as isolated images or bodily sensations, smells, or sounds that are separate from other life experiences. So that when these memories are triggered, it's almost impossible to make sense of the present experience or why the memories have been triggered. Emotions and behaviour. Children and young people who've experienced chronic trauma may have difficulty with a range of emotions, including trust, empathy, impulse control, rage and anger, managing shame, and moderating stress. Each of these issues may present different behaviours and problematic areas for the child. Emotional literacy. A child's emotional orientation to an experience helps determine a child's behaviour. Because their brain is still in its early stage of development, there is little buffer between what the children feel and do. When children's behaviour is responded to by parents and carers, they're not only learning about behavioural limits, they're also interpreting how to negotiate their internal and individually oriented feelings with the external socially determined world. Children become aware of their internal state by experiencing how others react to their feelings. If those feelings are acknowledged, valued, and verbalised, then children develop what we call emotional literacy. Traumatised children cannot easily recognise their feelings and have had limited experience of having their feelings recognised by others. Feelings are experienced as separate to traumatised children's knowledge of themselves. They often struggle to change or regulate the intensity of those emotional feelings. What happens when a child names a feeling? In the actual naming of a feeling, a child can be taught to recognise what might be going on for him or her physiologically, as in the body, and then be able to put self-regulating strategies in place when their level of arousal may be increasing or decreasing. Children come to organise their feelings into a framework built on the predictability of the responses that they receive to their behaviour and their emotional state. So how important is predictability? In a predictable world, predictability becomes the key through which children manage to negotiate how they have their needs met in their social exchanges with parents, family and friends. Consistent, congruent and validating responses give children an effective template for organising their internal emotional world. In a non-predictive world, traumatised children may experience inconsistent and frequently misattuned responses to the way they feel and behave. Instead of validating and acknowledging a child's feelings, an abusive parent or carer may escalate the child's confusion or fear by responding aggressively or blaming the child for their behaviour. There may also be confusion due to a parent or carer's response differing due to substance misuse, mental health issues, and their own trauma response patterns. In this context, there's no predictability. The child's emotional world remains disorganised. Traumatised children have a distorted understanding of feelings and an inability to regulate their responses. In fearful circumstances, the brain's arousal system is on high alert. The child has no idea what to expect next. He or she has difficulty feeling calm, safe, and in control. The emotional world of this child is in a constant state of flux and uncertainty and lacks predictability. We can assist traumatised children by working at building a trusting relationship, being in tune to their emotional state, reflecting back their emotional state and verbalising it.